Hello everyone, my name is Yanan. Today I'll be presenting on the dioxin disaster in Seveso, Italy. This event had profound impacts on environmental health and led to the significant regulatory changes. Here is an overview of what we will cover today: the objectives, the timeline of events, the cause and the impacts of the Seveso disaster, the cleanup efforts, aftermath, and a summary. The primary purpose of this presentation is to explore the cause and effects of the Seveso disaster. Objectives include understanding of the incident, evaluating the environmental consequence of the TCDD contamination, reviewing the cleanup efforts, and examining the response and regulatory changes. The timeline shows the key events of the Seveso disaster from the explosion to the cleanup efforts. I'll explain this in more detail as we go through the presentation. The disaster occurred on July 10, 1976, at the ICMESA chemical plant in Meda, near Seveso, Italy. The chemical reactor overheated due to a cooling system failure, causing the formation of the highly toxic dioxin compound, the TCDD. The safety valve couldn't contain the pressure, thus a toxic cloud containing TCDD were released. The explosion released approximately 1 to 2 kilograms of TCDD into the atmosphere, contaminating the soil and the vegetation immediately. The surrounding areas were divided into contamination zones based on the TCDD concentration. As seen in the figure 1, the map indicates the 3 dioxin contaminated zones, Zone A, B, and R. And you can also see the number of residents and the range of soil TCDD detected for each zone. And Zone A is the most heavily contaminated area, and R is the lowest contaminated area. After the accident, residents started experiencing skin lesions, nausea, and vomiting. Chlorachin, a severe skin condition, was prevalent among children in the most contaminated areas. Figure 2 shows the distribution of chlorachin cases diagnosed in children ages 3 to 14 years following the disaster, with the highest prevalence in Zone A, 19.6%. The disaster also caused the rapid death of animals. Over 80,000 animals died either directly or due to the liquidation works. Figure 3 reports the rapid mortality in the 3 contaminated zones, with Zone A having the highest mortality rate. In terms of long-term health impact, studies show TCDD levels remained high in exposed populations, indicating persistent contamination. As shown in Figure 4, the population in Zone A had the highest TCDD levels, which decreased over 20 years, but still indicate a significant contamination. In addition, long-term studies showed increased incidence of cancers, reproductive and developmental issues, and other chronic health conditions. Figure 5 illustrates the increased mortality rate due to various diseases in the Seveso area by the contamination zone, with an increase in cancer and respiratory disease from low contamination zone R to high contamination zone A. Another significant health impact was the increase in pregnancy loss rates. In Figure 6, an increased pregnancy loss percentage after the accident was seen in the moderated contamination zone B. Cleanup efforts began with evacuations after 2 weeks of the accident. Over 700 residents were evacuated from Zone A, and several thousand more were subject to health monitoring and precautions. Initial decontamination involved removing topsoil and disposing of contaminated plants and animals. By September 1976, a comprehensive cleanup plan was developed, including deeper soil removal, barrier construction, and reforestation. As a result, ICMESA was completely shut down. In response to the disaster, the European community adopted the Seveso Directive, aimed at preventing and controlling industrial accidents involving hazardous substances. The treatment of the soil in the affected area is now considered complete, and the entire site turned into the public park called Seveso Oak Forest Park. In summary, the Seveso disaster exposed residents to a high level of dioxin. Residents, particularly children, suffered acute effects such as chloroquine. There were notable increase in cancer rates, respiratory disease, and reproductive issues. The high level of TCDD contamination in soil and vegetation persists over time. Cleanup efforts include soil removal, barrier construction, and reforestation. And the Seveso directives was established to improve industrial safety standards and ensure continuous monitoring. The data and information presented today are based on various studies and reports. Here is the reference. Thank you for your attention.